Hey, so let's take a look at how to create a square cover for Audible. Maybe you are on a screen like this and you have your audiobook, you have your cover, but the cover is a rectangle and you go to upload here and it has all these requirements like 2400 by 2400. And then what's also important is that this bottom right flap is not covered. So how do you do it, especially if you are not a graphic designer or you don't have the original files? Well, we can do it using Photoshop Beta and generative AI, and we can basically take any rectangular cover and figure out what the sides probably are and use generative AI to fill in the rest. So this is a real audiobook that I'm uploading at acx.com. We go to ACX, we claim the book, we upload the audio files, and that gets us an audiobook on Audible that we can earn royalties for that is linked to our regular book. But a sticking point for a lot of people is this pesky square cover. So what we'll do is we'll first go on Amazon and we'll search this person's name and we'll go to the Amazon page for their book. And then you go there, and I always prefer just to go to the Kindle version, and then you click on, not the sample, but you click on the cover itself. It pops up this, then you right click and open image in new tab. You go to that new tab, you right click and save image as, and then we'll just save that as the name of the book, and that ensures that we're starting out with the crispest and best quality cover to start off with. And then we go to Adobe Creative Cloud. I think it's $60 a month, maybe 30 or 40. And when you go to all apps, there's Photoshop, but we don't want that. Regular Photoshop does not have generative AI. We go over to this beta tab and you install Photoshop Beta. Photoshop Beta looks exactly like regular Photoshop, but it has the AI features. We click on open and we browse to that book cover that we just saved, double click it, and then what do? Well, first we have to go to this background layer, double click, and then rename it to layer 0. That just makes it where it's not anchored to the background. We can do whatever we want with it. Then we go to image, canvas size, and then we make this, we have to do a little bit of logic here. It's 932 wide, 1500 high. We want to make it a square, so that means we need to make the width the same as what the height was. When you have a rectangle, the height is greater than the width, so we need to make the width the same as the height, then it'll be a square. So this says 1500 to 1500. Okay, next we need a larger size. You might have noticed if you were quick on the draw that it said 2400 by 2400 size. So I like to just do 3000, round up, make it simple. Image size, and then this is right now 1500 by 1500, and we make this 3000. But be extra sure that it's 3000 pixels, not 3000 inches, just 3000 by 3000. Click OK. And then if you need to zoom out a little bit, I do a control minus a couple of times. Now we have zoomed out. And then what we do is we need to shrink the cover slightly, because if you remember, there was a little bit of a flap, a tab that comes up on this bottom right corner, and that's not good, right? Because it will be for sure covered the way that is. So first we need to add a little bit of a ruler, line things up. So we go to View, Guides, New Guide, Vertical, and then 50%. So View, Guides, New Guide, make it a vertical 50%, click on OK, and this just adds this vertical line here, and that will make sure that our cover is as centered as much as possible. It almost looks like the original cover wasn't exactly quite centered. That's okay though. Now we resize. So I do a Control T, and I believe the long way is like Edit Transform or something. It's one of these. But I just do the shortcut. I do Control T, and then we go over to this corner and we can sort of resize it. And I like to hold down Alt. That way it resizes, but it kind of keeps the center where the center is. And just use your judgment and make that shrunk enough where a flap going up like that would just barely miss it. And then hit enter to apply the changes. So we took the rectangular cover, added the sides, added the width, we enlarged it, and then now we shrunk the original cover. The one step remaining is to use generative AI to fill in maybe like this blue pattern, and it might take us a couple of attempts, and it might add some extra weird text gobbledygook. It almost looks like Arabic writing, and we can clean that up if we do see that. But what we do is we need to make sure we're clicking on this rectangular dotted line, rectangular marquee tool, and we want to draw a box. We want to draw it just enough. We want to keep a little bit of the edges so that way the AI has enough to chew on, but we also don't want it to be like right up against the text. We kind of want something along these lines. Where do you see how I kind of selected most of it, but not quite? So we use that rectangular marquee to select, then do a select inverse. So this is really important. Don't skip that step. Now we're selecting the outer range of that. And then because it's Photoshop beta, there's this thing that hovers, this generative fill. So I believe if you don't see that, it's the contextual taskbar. So if you don't see this, just make sure you go Window, Contextual Taskbar. It's this floaty thing. So we made a selection, select inverse, generative fill, and you just click that button, and then it asks what we'd like to generate. Just leave that blank and see what it gives us. It takes a few seconds, and it will give us 3 guesses about what it thinks it will fill in the remaining area outside of this cover. And usually one of the 3 is okay. Okay, so we don't like that, right? And an important part about Audible is it doesn't like borders. So like they consider this white on the edge as a border. So you see how it says 1 out of 3. So click over 2 out of 3. That's exactly what we wanted actually. And then 3 out of 3 is almost the same. So now it's up to us. Do we want that one or that one? Okay, and we want that one. And just, I was expecting this to go a little worse off because sometimes it might add all these like weird squigglies, like it just doesn't know what it's doing. And in that case, if that happens, you can just go back to the selection tool and just highlight if it added anything else weird that you didn't like. Click generative fill and then say remove the words. And then it will do its best to keep the backgrounds intact, and so that way, just if there's any extra text, that is the way to remove extra text in the outputs. I know sometimes I'll run this and it'll all be great except for one little weird bit of text, so that's how you move little pieces. But if you don't like what it does, you do Control Z, and then you just back up and Control Z as far back as you want. So like if none of these 3 were good choices, you just Control Z way back out of it, and then you can run generative fill again until you get what you want. And I'm just going to, well, let me Control Y. Oh, I don't think it lets me redo. So I guess I'll just do the generative fill again, and hopefully this time it gives me the same result. So we hit generative fill. Now you can see it for a second time. Let it run its thing, and then it will give us 3 choices. So that one's all right. That one's better. All right. So we kind of got more or less back to the same place we were. The other ones, the bushes were sticking out on the side, but I think, yeah, so that will work for us. And so all we then have to do is then do an export, and I like to do a save for web. And then we want to export either as a PNG 24 or a JPEG. So you first try PNG 24, but then Audible only allows you to do an image up to 8 megabytes. And so if this is above, see on the bottom there, it's at 2.5 M. If that is larger than 8 M, though which is not, but if it was a huge number, you could just switch it to JPEG, but we'll keep it as PNG. Click on save, and then we'll put it in an area where we think we can find it in a moment. So give that a moment to save. And then once that's done, now we'll have our square cover for Audible, for ACX, for Findaway Voices. And so what we'll do is we'll go back to our ACX tab and click Upload Cover Art, Upload File, find where we save that. There it is. Give it a moment to upload, and fingers crossed that it is out of the way of that bottom right corner flap. If not, we need to back up a few steps. All right, cool, we lucked out. So there we go. That's a square cover without any extra layers, tools, graphic knowledge required. You just enlarge the cover that's already there. We click on Save. Now the cover's there. We verify all of the files that we put on there, closing credits, sample, it all looks good. Click on Submit Audiobook for review. I understand. And there we go. Now we have sent our audiobook to Audible, including the square cover. Hope you liked it. Like and subscribe. Thanks for watching. Bye for now. See you next time.